It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Without further ado, here's our fearless host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and today I have assembled a pretty impressive cast of people. I wouldn't call them a cast of characters. I would call them a cast of individuals that are actually making things happen here in Northwest Arkansas, people that are just like you and me, regular members of this community that really care about the outcome of things that are taking place right now as we deal with the coronavirus and COVID-19. And so I have assembled a great list of folks, and we've got State Representative Denise Garner on the call with us. She's serving her first term in the Arkansas House. She represents District 84, which includes portions of Washington County. We've got Kent Eikenberry on the call from the NWA Food Bank. And Kent's basically his idea of what he does on a regular basis is that every day that he goes to work at the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank, he has a purpose, and he is making a difference in the lives of those that may have some challenges when it comes to having sufficient food supplies in their home. Gary Head is the chairman and CEO of Signature Bank. Gary is the people's banker, as I like to call him. He's been on the podcast before. He also has a really good handle on what it means to be a community banker. Rolf Wilkin is a local entrepreneur, owns Eureka Pizza, started it right out of college, and took $8,000 and turned it into a small mini empire, if you will, when it comes to pizza. Jeremy Gothrop, another chef, and also the gentleman, along with his partners, that started the Roots Festival here in Northwest Arkansas. He is a father, and he likes to think of himself as a practitioner of giving, and he's giving in this way of just participating on this particular episode today. Don Bennett with Tricycle Farms. He's the founder and executive director of Tricycle Farms. Don has an interesting and varied background, but he is really making a difference. He said I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. And Don is doing some amazing things with Tricycle Farms, and I hope he can share what he's doing today in the wake of this coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Aaron Marshall is the CEO of BCS, and BCS is the organization that supplies Walmart with just about all of their systems that they need to handle most of their transactions. So all their cash registers, all their credit card machines, and he deals with information technology resources at a much higher level than the average company. But they are certainly impacted by what's happening, and I'd be interested to hear his thoughts. Chris Dinwiddie, another person that's been on the podcast. Chris is the principal broker at the Exclusive Real Estate Group. He's also has a law degree, and Chris has a unique perspective on how we're dealing with real estate in this day and age as we deal with the coronavirus. And finally, Mary Beth Brooks. She's the director of the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. She's had a number of years of local banking experience here in this area, and I thought it would be great for Mary Beth to talk just a little bit about what small businesses can do in this time of need, as some have had to shutter doors, some have had to kind of shelter in place, if you will, and put things on hold, which is very difficult to do when you're running a business and you have to employ other people whose livelihood relies on you. So that's the group of folks that we have. And without further ado, I wanted to welcome all of you guys on to the podcast and this particular virtual town hall meeting. Of course, I'd love to be in person with each and every one of you. Some of you I've spent time with face to face, but because of the way things are with the COVID coronavirus, we kind of have to keep our distance. And I'd be curious to know if anybody could speak specifically to how this has created a challenge for you, or what you're doing to kind of overcome some of the situations that have been imposed upon you. And I'd actually like to start with you, Gary, if for a minute, because you deal with people on a regular basis. But I'd love for you just to kind of give your thoughts about how you're trying to maintain business as usual in light of everything that's going on.
Yeah, I think basically it's business despite there's no business as usual. So last Monday, we closed all of our lobbies to walk-in traffic and encouraged clients to go through the drive-through. And, of course, there are banking services that we still have to bring people in. And we ask health questions that the last thing I need is to have somebody here be infected with the virus if there's something I can do to keep that from happening. So we have been we send as many people different directions as possible to do our business off campus and from home. And we've done, I would say probably more than 50% of our workforce is working from their homes. We had to do a lot of technology things that allowed it. And, you know, my only fear now, Randy, is some of them are going to really like it and they're going to want to stay in their pajamas and work all day long. That's a little concerning for me, but we so far so good. I'm going to err on the side of taking care of my folks. We have a really good team, and I don't want them to be exposed anymore. It's tough. We have tellers that have to handle money, so we've got gallons of hand sanitizer, and we're trying to just stay as careful as we can. The thing that is important right now is that any second, maybe some of these politicians are going to wake up and get something done. But it appears that a lot of the help for small business is going to be run through the banks. And Mary Beth probably knows far more about that than I do because she is far smarter than I am. I just happen to be sitting here with a position to have to try to help a lot of very worried people about their employees that they're laying off left and right today.
Yeah. And I'm glad you kind of teed that up nicely for Mary Beth, because it is a big issue that everybody is concerned about. How will we keep the wheels moving forward? What can we do? Every business has more, some businesses have more runway than others. And when I think of runway, I think of capital to run their business in light of everything that's happening, even if they're not bringing in the revenue that they're normally used to bringing in. And so there are a number of people on this call that are kind of in the same position, but I'd be curious to know, those of you that are having to make sure that you have that runway of cash available, what are you doing to kind of stem the tide, and what stopgap measures are you using to make sure that you can keep as many people as you can employed? And I guess I would just go, first person I could think of would be Rolf. If you want to just mention that from Eureka Pizza, I'd love to hear what you guys are doing there.
Sure thing. Well, I'm fortunate. Over the past 10 years, we've spent a huge capital investment converting our locations to drive-thrus. In fact, we just opened our 9th in East Fayetteville, across from the Walmart neighborhood market, a week ago. So great time to open. But so far, carry out, takeout, and drive-thru is like critical infrastructure. So when you're seeing that lockdown, like Louisiana just started, and I think Kansas City and other states, we're allowed to stay open, which is great. Our sales have been okay. They haven't been great, but they haven't been bad. It's like a slower week. We do wonder with the headwinds of just all the panic and the hoarding at the supermarket, which seems a little unreasonable to me, but that's what people do. And then I think a lot of restaurants do takeout food to get rid of their perishable food. So we're fortunate. We're one of 2% of restaurants that can probably say things are okay. So I'm glad to be in the boat I am, but boy, I sure know my friends and colleagues in other sectors of dining they're done, temporarily, and it's a horrible thought to even consider.
Yeah, well, and as I think about that, I know that we have an individual on the call, Jeremy Gawthorpe. He had to close up Woodstone. I mean, Jeremy, that must have been a really tough decision for you.
Indeed, it was. It bugs me every day still. It's not just about the business and the brand and the dollars. It is mostly these people. who rely on you. And just as quick as we gave them the notice, it seems like that's how fast things are moving anyway. So trying to stay ahead of it, and really the filter was their health and well-being, being in this industry. So in the end game, it wasn't a hard decision because the litmus test isn't financial. It was safety.
Yeah.
That makes it, I guess, a quicker decision to make.
Yeah. Well, so I'm curious, what did you, I mean, you obviously, I'm sure that, how many people were employed through Woodstone?
Over 70.
Wow. Okay. So that's 70 families that are impacted just by that one decision. So
not one to take lightly, for sure.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. What plans do you have in place to kickstart this once this, the idea with this whole pandemic is that there is a beginning, there is a middle, or that rise that we're trying to avoid by flattening that curve, and then there will be an end to this. In your minds, what are you doing to kind of be prepared when you kind of get the A-OK to get things started again? What do you think you're going to need in order to be successful, to have a successful reboot, if you will, of Woodstone and everything that you guys are doing?
Well, I guess those people to return will be pretty critical. And then startup capital, which will be pretty incredible to know we have in the beginning to make a plan. If that's not there, then we're making this plan is going to be obviously completely different. So without the dollars to move quickly, and there's just a massive inventory and alcohol and food and labor that you take in a relaunch, which I have at least done this before in closing restaurants temporarily because of things, or permanently. I realized the volume, how much people, it's 3 days of prep and cleaning and everything just to get ready for your first guest to walk in. So it'd be a sizable amount of dollars just to hit that go button again. And then hopefully the other part is people coming back out. And I know that we all realize that social interactions are probably going to be changed for some time, not just the distancing, but people just feeling safe and breaking their routines. So once everyone's feeling safe, I guess, to roll back into the community, we can't expect that everyone's just going to hit the ground and just populate every restaurant and we're all going to have Friday nights every day. That's impossible because everyone's going to be crawling out of a similar hole. So the sales and everything, the trajectory there is going to be pretty slow, I think, to ramp up. So then we'll have to weather, a distance of time there where we are slow days, and someday we'd cross our fingers when we reach normalcy again. But no fingers crossed there, I guess.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. And I think therein lies the rub that every small business owner is struggling with, is the time that it will take to get back to a sense of normalcy, which you're right. I think social distancing, there are a lot of things that I think people are going to do now in the future that they didn't do in the past. And, this is new territory for everybody that's on this call. Even the oldest person on this call has never experienced, really, I would say, what we're experiencing right now. So we're definitely in a new area. I did want to ask you this, because this has been shared about with a lot of companies that have said, hey, if we can support small businesses by buying gift cards and things of that nature, so that inevitably when things do get better and they do open up, there's that little bit of cash flow that can kind of help. Does that help at all?
Well, I would say yes, of course it does. Right now we have zero income. So gift cards would be of something and would be supportive. And then even on Rolf's realm there, doing small numbers still would any sales be helpful to keep the machine moving along.
Yeah.
So I encourage people definitely to do that, or buy merch or just support them, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And I'd be curious to know, and I'm not asking you to make a decision right now, but what are your plans, since you also run a very, probably one of the largest festivals that we have here outside of Bites, Blues, and Barbecue in the Fayetteville area, the Roots Festival, which normally takes place at the end of August. Do you have plans to keep that on the calendar for this year?
It is on the calendar right now. And I think that the unknowns, just like everyone's dealing with, keeps us from making a decision yet. That time will come, I'm sure, somewhere in the near future to make a decision based on whatever information we have at that point.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it still is. We're still saying this to the musicians and to the chefs that we're bringing in and the people that we support, our employees for the event. So currently it's just on pause. And but nobody really has a clue, I would say, of what August is going to look like. And then we roll back into the social distancing conversation as a festival like that is, well, people sitting right next to each other and people eating food and preparing food out in the open and pouring drinks and a lot of touching. So I would say that is a little nerve-wracking to consider currently. You know, the whole idea of it is it's hard to even fathom currently, but obviously we're going to all get back to life. So yeah, no answer there, Randy, but everyone I'm sure will know soon enough.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair enough. And again, I think what we're going to encourage our audience to do is to be on the lookout, because you'll be updating the websites, both for Woodstone and for the Roots Festival, about what your plans are. And I think, and I can't, I'm not a betting man, but I would just say that I think a lot of people, especially in the Northwest Arkansas community, are going to really come together and rally around the local business marketplace to really support them when things do start up again. And I don't know if anybody feels otherwise, but I feel very strongly about that. But I would love to kind of just hear from Mary Beth, because I'm sure, Mary Beth, from the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center, you guys are having to face a lot of questions and also come up with some new ideas about how you guys can help local businesses that are facing something that they've never faced before.
Okay. First, I'll start, Randy, with just telling everybody, some of you know what I do every day, but my name is Mary Beth Burns, and I'm at the University of Arkansas, and I oversee the director of the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development. A very long name, but we go by ASBTDC, or we are an SBDC. We help businesses get started, we help businesses grow, and we help people buy and sell businesses. We provide all these consulting services for free, members of the public. So I really don't deal much with students or with professors. I primarily just deal with, like last year, if it tells anything, we had about 500 new clients last year. We were helping either get a business started, grow a business, or to buy or sell a business. So, and we do everything from planning to a lot of financial forecasting, and then a lot of market research that we have our grad students working on all the time. So through all that, obviously everything has changed immensely. And right now it's been a huge focus on how it is that we can help people. We are partnering with, this is not yet announced, but in the process of, we're partnering with the Northwest Arkansas Council and the University of Arkansas, and we're going to be really doing a much broader reach. We're going to add a lot of people temporarily to our team to try to help businesses. And we're hoping that will serve be much better service to everybody, because that way we'll be far more accessible. We'll have a person who's just catering to restaurants and trying to help on that front. We'll have some people who are just focusing on communications with cities, states, trying to see how we can help on cities and states for different grant opportunities. Others will be focused primarily on the SBA and the disaster relief, all of those loan applications. So we'll have a team of people. We'll have some folks who are focused all on HR. We'll have access to certain lawyers who are agreeing to help us and support us. So we'll hopefully be able to be a little bit of a one-stop shop. We still want everybody first to check with their banker, because that's where they need to go first. But we can hopefully be a resource. Bankers right now are really, really slammed and trying to help people, and they're trying to do it without a lobby being open. So we're kind of that extra resource, because a lot of that, like the disaster loans, all come directly from the applicant, and that some of those don't even go through a bank. So we can be a big resource for them, looking through them and helping them. What I've noticed as an impact, and what's been different that I don't think I was anticipating, is not just the impact on restaurants and bars, but also even on the medical front. I mean, smaller shops. Gosh, anybody who sees clients or patients face to face is really struggling. So that might be a plastic surgeon, that is an ophthalmologist, an optometrist. I just keep hearing from all of these offices because now they're limited in having any visits. So if they can no longer see patients for just a regular eye checkup, it's got to be for an emergency, for example. So one clinic that I'm working with went from having 50 patients a day to having one. So how to manage through all of that. So what we're working on is trying to broaden our reach and have more people available to help where we can actually really finish with everything and be able to help clients all the way from beginning to end rather than having 2-minute phone calls we've been doing until now just because we've been so inundated. But we're getting the funding so that we can broaden that base and be a bigger help to more businesses.
And your whole team is working remotely now, is that correct?
My whole team is working remotely because we are working for the University of Arkansas. So
everything.
But these days, so much of our time anyway, we were out of our office. We do have an office in downtown Fayetteville, but at least 2 days a week I was in Benton County. And each person on my team it wasn't spread out. We have businesses in Siloam Springs, just like we have businesses in Huntsville. So we're out a lot anyway. So we're pretty used to working, at a coffee shop, a local coffee shop, and our laptop. We're pretty used to that, or at somebody's business. So it's pretty easy for us to pick it up and go and do everything just like this and do Zoom calls and webinars. We're used to that.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to make sure in the show notes, we're going to have everybody's contact information, but especially yours, we're going to highlight because we know that a lot of small businesses that listen to this podcast and are part of our community want to know every option that's available to them. And we want to be able to at least direct them to your website, which I know you're updating on a regular basis and can kind of share that information. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy.
So I want to switch gears just real quickly, and I'd love to just pull in the only politician of the group, which is Denise Garner, state representative, and I really appreciate you coming on, and I'd love to get your sentiments and what is the state legislature discussing and or talking about with regard to what we're dealing with right now.
Absolutely. I am a state legislator, but my background is in public health. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm married to a 66-year-old cancer survivor who's an MD on the front lines of the crisis here in Fayetteville. I'm the mom of a son who is an MD and a master's in public health and has a master's in health economics, who's at the epicenter in Tennessee, trying to lessen the curve there. And I'm part owner in a restaurant that's been closed and mom of a son who is temporarily out of a job because of that. So, I'm coming from a lot of different places, but mostly from the healthcare as I'm working with the legislature right now. So I've kind of been talking to everyone I know here, trying to help organize and get those groups that are organized represented in the legislature, so that when our group of healthcare hospitals and physicians and groups that are working together for healthcare understand what it is they need, then I try to help make certain that the state officers know what's going on. So, I've been accused of causing panic, and certainly don't want to do that, but I do think that we have to sound the alarm. And the first thing that has to be done is to make sure that we are alleviating the morbidity and mortality from this disease. So that's the first thing. I think that anybody who has been paying attention is already a little panicked, and those who are going about their business as usual, really for the sake of the rest of humanity, they need to be alarmed. I don't want just panic, though. I want action. I want folks to do some of the things that we've already talked about. The social distancing is so important. But we've got to make sure that those things are happening, and we're spending a lot of money and effort to try to get the word out so that we don't have to mandate some of those kinds of things. But if some of these efforts are not seen to work, then that will happen.
So, yeah, I was listening earlier to somebody talking about, and this is he's a geneticist and studies pandemics. And, it was the idea that if there was a way for us to totally quarantine ourselves for a month, we'd have a much better shot at riding this one out fairly quickly and seeing it come to a faster end, because the virus could be a little bit more self-contained. And I know that's difficult because, just like you said, you've been in public health and you have family that are on the front lines right now. I have family that every day they're like, pray for me because I'm going back to the hospital, to take care of patients. So it's hard for it. I really want people to understand that this is not a joke. This is not something made up. It's real. And, the one thing that I've noticed that, I remember last week, early in the week, I was like, oh, wow. I was kind of wiping my brow saying, man, we only have 11 cases. And then by the end of the week, we're up to 165. And so it's growing rapidly, but there will come an end to it, to this whole situation. And we'll start to see the numbers slow down and recede. And I think that will be the time when we can kind of breathe a sigh of relief, but still be vigilant about how we handle ourselves from a social perspective, because we just have to be mindful of the older people in the community that can be severely impacted by this. And it's a real issue. I heard a story just yesterday of an 80-year-old couple down in Central Arkansas, and they were yelling from their car with the windows up for anybody to come to see them. And a young girl came by and they handed her a list and $100 bill and asked if she would go shopping for them. So that's how serious this issue is. I mean, people don't understand, and people are desperately frightened about, their health, especially if they're in a compromised situation. So, certainly I say that and share that story just to encourage people to help out where you can. I know I've done it in my subdivision by letting all the older people know that if anybody needs an errand run or needs some drugs picked up, or legal drugs, of course, and anything else, I'll be more than happy to take care of that. But I mean, I think we all have to kind of do our part to help each other out. And there's certainly a segment of our society and our population here, specifically in Northwest Arkansas, that is older. I mean, this is a fairly large retirement community. I drive by Butterfield every day, and the place looks like it's shut down because there's like nothing going in or nothing going out. So we have to be thinking about everybody else. Even if we're 100% healthy and we feel like, oh, I'm good, I'll be okay. We can be, as they like to say, quiet carriers of this, and it may never affect us, but we'll just pass it on to somebody else. So that's why this whole social distancing, that's why all this stuff is important. And we just need to figure out a way to implement it into our daily lives. And yes, it is upsetting and it just changing the way that we do things. But as I keep telling everybody, my mantra lately is this too shall pass. We will get through this. So I think that you're absolutely right that we need to be aware of what's going on. Is there anything, Representative Garner, that you'd like to speak to about the economic issues that we're facing here in Northwest Arkansas specifically?
Well, the one thing that I'd love to say is that the quicker we take care of the hemorrhage, if you'll pardon my medical term, but analogy, but if the sooner that we take care of the hemorrhage, the sooner we can work on the other parts of the body, the other organs. We have got to make sure that we are taking care of this virus. The longer we wait for some of these measures, the longer it's going to take us to get back on our feet economically. So that's what I'm trying to get across to everybody I know, is that the sooner we take care of the virus, the sooner we take care of these suppression methods, the sooner we can get back on our feet. We're not going to get rid of the virus. We're going to flatten the curve. We're going to flatten the curve so that we don't have peaks going on in every place at the same time. Otherwise, we're going to see what's happening in Italy. We already see it happening in New York, where they can't get PPE and they can't get healthcare workers and those kinds of things. We're not going to get rid of the disease. We're just going to flatten the curve so that when we do have it, we will have some folks that have built up some immunity. We will have respirators and ventilators that we can get from other places to utilize it when we do have that peak. If we don't take these suppressive measures, we're going to be in a heap of trouble. It's going to be like the Spanish flu and the Depression all at one time. We have got to take these suppressive measures and as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's short-term pain and short-term inconvenience for a long-term outcome that is much better and for all of us in the long run. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I wanted to talk about the one area that I actually had invited 3 different individuals that I wanted to come on to speak about just the issue of food. I think one of the things that we realized right away as soon as this problem came up was that, you don't realize how many young people, especially children, are reliant on school lunches and school breakfasts to feed them. And that certainly a lot of school systems are coming up with some very unique ways. Bus drivers are donating and volunteering their time to deliver school lunches to kids that are in need. And I asked a couple of folks to come on, specifically Kent from Northwest Arkansas Food Bank and Don from Tricycle. To kind of talk with us a little bit about this area, because I think sometimes if it's not something that we struggle with, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But I want people to be aware of all the options that are out there and available to them. And most importantly, out of anything, we don't want to see anything go to waste. And I know that Don, if you'd like to start, and then I'll throw it over to Kent, just to kind of share what you guys are doing over at Tricycle Farms to be able to spread information and, more importantly, food, and share that with those impacted by the coronavirus.
Thank you, Randy. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Thank you. Well, we do a food recovery program 5 days a week, and our small staff, who depends upon volunteers, we decided we were just going to do it ourselves and protect the volunteers, and then keep do the best possible practices we can to continue moving food to a very vulnerable population. That y'all have been talking about the economy, and part of that economy is going to be that the vulnerable populations are going to increase, I think, dramatically. And so I think food is going to be very critical in the near future. And I think in the coming months, it could be even more important. And coming into our growing season, another part of what Tricycle does is grow food and teach people how to grow food. And now 1,200 to 1,700 volunteers. At this point, the decision is that we will have 0 volunteers until we get past this point. And then, of course, it's going to be working with people through social distance. But I think we need to get growing, and then that's on an organizational level. And then I think on a more regional level, we need to really think about what our farmers are going to do and how they're doing.
Yeah. Are you talking to farmers on a daily basis?
I've been reaching out to farmers. I know one right now that has 850 pounds product that is going to go bad in 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness!
Needs about $5 a pound for that, and they've completely shut down and sent all their workers home. And if she can sell this product, she'll be able to pay unemployment and pay for a tractor. But these are definitely dire times, and the last thing we need is our farmers not to be growing.
Yeah. This particular product, do you know what is it? What is the product? I'm just curious.
It is the most incredible shiitake mushrooms in the region.
Okay. All right. And if we were to put something out there to just let people know, I mean, how would she be able to distribute that right now?
Well, I think that a wise friend of mine told me not to think anything further than the next day or two. But the reality is, when it comes to food, we're in the growing season, and I think that there are now some definite resources out there that have been shut down, and it's possible, I think, to create a jobs program and work through some of these restaurants as distribution points.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to have refrigeration and freezers and be able to hold food and make, I think, particular bags that are taken out to people so they can be sold, or we can distribute to people who don't have money right now.
Yeah, man. And I love shiitake mushrooms. I'll get that information from you, Don, so that I can share that out there, because I think it's important. If there's some way that I can help her out, I definitely would love to do that. Kent, I'm assuming that you're seeing the same things on your end at the food bank. Are you? How are you guys with regard to your reserves of food there?
Well, even before this all started, there were about 65,000 people in Northwest Arkansas who were deemed food insecure. Every day that number is escalating. I think, you guys may know better than I do. I would think there are probably 15 to 25,000 who are in the food services that, or maybe even more, that have automatically overnight entered the area of being food insecure. So we stepped out trying to ramp up prior to this. So I've, in the last week, spent between $150,000 to $200,000 buying food, because we know we're going to have a higher need for it. The problem we're running into is the supply chain, where something would typically be here in 3 weeks, it may be 4 to 6 weeks before it gets here. So kind of what we're doing is trying to identify key players in each community, and not that we're closing down any pantries, but we have a lot of our partner agencies who are voluntarily closing. So we're trying to identify people that can be super pantries, so that each community has some place that they can hang their hat on and go. I like Don's idea about working with the restaurants. One of my peers in Jacksonville, Florida, has done exactly that, which reminds me, I was supposed to call her today and get some of the details on how they work. But they're basically, the food bank is, I don't know where they're getting the money, but they're hiring restaurants to prepare food and then deliver that food to those people who are in need.
Wow, that's an interesting option there. I wonder if Jeremy, if that's something that even is remotely possible for a shop like Jeremy's.
Currently, no, but I think time will come. I'm still like a little bit hesitant on some of the receiving and day to day and the protocols in place. I think as we get more comfortable with that, we have some break glass scenarios that we're looking at, if in fact we get to this point. But willing to hear it out before any kind of answer is given, for sure.
Okay.
I kind of like to dovetail a little bit on what Jeremy says, that it's not just simply a matter of getting the food. I've got 26 employees that I have to look out for their safety. In order for us to continue to serve our mission, those people have to be working. And so we're having to put together some more protocols as far as volunteers coming in, our guys going to different places to pick up food.
Oh yeah.
Like I say, if our guys get sick and we have to shut the food bank, I don't know what we can do.
Sage.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeremy, were you going to say something? I know you kept yourself off mute for that.
Oh no, just hearing it out. I think I'm following Sorry, I'm surrounded by children.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
There's the other part. Yeah. Being at home with, family, and trying not to put myself at risk, because these 4 kids rely on me and, to be here and be healthy and adequate. So walking this fine line of community and family and safety in regards, and what Denise was saying about, all we can do. I realize people need to eat and systems need to be keeping in place, but a fine line on all the protocols and all the safety measures in place so that these things can happen without any ripple, or less or that, just the continuation of this peak. So, I mean, again, way open to the ideas and suggestions. We've always been a community-based organization as much as we can, with all the restaurants I've had, organizations, and always here to do the things that need to be done. But at a certain point, leaning on state officials and people in bigger industries and learning by example on what these protocols should be, because this is no time for me to invent the protocol and reinvent the wheel. There needs to be some trickle down of information on how to proceed with these things safely for everybody and still accomplish the goal.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy.
Yes.
Can I add something to dovetail of what Kent said about the supply chains? It could be a real opportunity to not just help the farmers stay, solvent, but maybe expand their growing, so that we can be part of the supply chain, assuming in the future that we can continue to create protocols to work safely and separately. But these farmers are already growing. Maybe they could be empowered to grow more.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Was somebody else going to jump in? Yes.
Yes, this is Denise. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that one of the things, since Farmer's Table is closed, one of the things that we're trying to do, Adrian Schomfield, who is one of the owners, is working with Peter Narengarten to work on a brokerage system so that we can try to capture the farmers that have produce that needs to be sold and try to find places to get those things sold, either in hospitals or cafeteria, the school system. So we are working on some of those kinds of things, and I'll be glad to get you that information as well.
Yeah, I would love for that, for you to get that to me, and then I want to make sure Don gets that as well, because I just
absolutely.
I think that would be really helpful. And again, that's really the whole idea of why we wanted to do this in the first place, is just to kind of share information. One of the things that I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Mary. This is Mary Beth. Yep. Martine is trying to get in, but she's not able to get in. If you want to try to, when she calls the number, she's just trying to call, and it says that all the lines are busy.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I'm trying to, let me see if I can add her.
I was curious if you could.
Yeah, I want to see if I want to figure out a way to add her. I'll try to do that. Hold on one second. What I wanted to say though, just I do want to finish this thought. I did talk with Mike Anzalone from ONF, and he said that one of the biggest pieces of information, and he really wanted to be here today, was that he and Kent and Don, you might concur with this, that there is a significant amount of fragility of the food supply chain, and as what we've said earlier is certainly confirming that people are kind of misinformed about how deep the supply chain is at any given time. And he said the biggest challenge that they're facing at ONF, at Ozark Natural Foods, as well as a lot of other food stores around that I've spoken to, is that usually a retail grocery store has about 1 week's of inventory on hand, maybe 10 days. And that usually people have this idea that there is a warehouse behind the store with just an endless run on inventory. But that's just not the case. and no, really, because I think that's where a lot of this, kind of hoarding mentality, and, I can't even explain the whole toilet paper thing. I just don't understand it. But, I got plenty of leaves in my backyard if I get into a pinch, so I'll be okay. But seriously, though, when it comes to food, I think people need to understand that, that you need to plan ahead. And Mike was saying that every household should keep at least a week of non-perishable food on hand for any unforeseen incident that could interrupt the supply chain. And this type of panic buying is really what impacts our current supply chain and certainly sets us behind the 8 ball when it comes to the availability of the type of foods that we all need.
I concur.
Yeah. So it's just, and I just wanted to share that because, again, he wanted to be on, and that's his biggest issue. And that's what he's dealing with right now is just keeping things in stock. And there's a reason why they're just out of stock of stuff right now, is because people are, it's one thing to buy a week's worth of jasmine rice. It's a whole nother thing to buy a month and a half's worth of jasmine rice from the bulk section and then come back in a couple of days later wondering why there's no jasmine rice to purchase. So it's the little things like that can go a long way. And I think knowledge is power. I mean, it definitely helps individuals to be aware of that we just don't have an endless supply available to us at all times. So I have a couple of other people that I really wanted to share, and I don't know why I can't get Ms. Pollard on. I thought I had enough lines in here to be able to add another person, but for some reason I can't add her.
Hey, Randy, if it would help, they have come up and asked me if I will come help pack boxes.
Sure.
So I can sign off and she can take my spot.
Okay.
If something comes up in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that would be great. Certainly you've had a chance to share, and I really appreciate it. And I certainly wanted to make some time for her since she does represent our local healthcare community. Being
okay, Mary
so.
Beth, if you will tell her that I'm getting off, so she should be able to get on. I'm going to go back and I'm going to put some shelf-stable product into some boxes because we have a lot of people who want something to eat. So, guys, thank you so much for all you do. You guys are all big supporters of the food bank, and together we're going to get through this, and we're going to make our Northwest Arkansas a little bit better. So, thank you all.
Thanks, Kent. Appreciate you, Kent. Thank you.
And I do want to, before I go off, I want to make sure I'm glad we didn't see Gary in his pajamas. And I didn't know when you were talking about old guys, if you were referring to him or me or
Hey, Randy, I'm wearing the same blue jeans I wear to work every single day, and I'm sitting in my office.
There you go. That's it.
I do wash them once in a while, though.
Yeah, that's it. Some things never change. Well, thank you for that, Kent. We really appreciate you, and I'll make sure that folks have all of Kent's information and the NWA Food Bank's information on the show notes for this particular episode. There are two other individuals before we have Mrs. Pollard come on, and as she's getting online, hopefully, there's two people that I asked to come on here, and one is Aaron Marshall with BCS. And Aaron, I would love for you. I had a chance to see your fabulous operation there in Springdale. I would love for you just to kind of share your view of how things are going right now and what you guys are doing. I mean, you have kind of a self-contained operation there, but again, you deal with the supply chain in some way, shape, or form. You deal with FedEx people coming in and out of your building. What are you guys doing to kind of keep your employees safe, and how have you guys been able to maintain during this COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, thanks for that, Randy. It's been certainly an interesting time. We've got a little bit different challenges because we do fill an essential supply chain role from the perspective of the electronics in all the Walmart stores in the U.S. in all their formats. And so if something breaks in a register lane or in the internet infrastructure or the back office servers, we repair, refurbish, and provide the logistics for that equipment. The defectives coming into us and then good equipment going back out to the technicians to replace it, to the tune of over 1,000 boxes in and out every day. And so we've had to figure out a way to stay open in a way that keeps our employees as safe and healthy as possible. I think every contingency plan I come up with is good for about 2 hours, and then we have to come up with a new one based on the newest information. So, and we have FedEx people in and out. I can tell you that a week ago, last Thursday, the retail volume that was purchased in that 24-hour period was the highest in history. And that Friday following was higher than that by 50%.
Yeah.
And so, given the volume of people's buying habits and perceived needs, we're functioning at 50 to 75% above typical Black Friday or holiday retail activity. And so the toll on the equipment is on par with that. And so we're on the store support side of things, we're as busy as ever. And so we've had to come up with plans on top of plans for those that can be in the office, for those that can get to the office. We've kind of got an A team, a B team, and a C team of people who are working remotely and subject matter experts in each department who are staying away from the facility on the off chance someone does get contracted the disease and we can swap people in and out. We've added measures to screen people as they come in the building for temperature, and we're wiping down every couple of hours with Clorox wipes all the doorknobs and light switches and commonly touched surfaces. And so we're doing everything we can. I'm trying to stay as informed I can without becoming overloaded with all the information that seems to change every couple of hours. But yeah, we're trying to keep Walmart open so that those that depend on getting their staples through a Walmart store can continue to do so.
Okay. Wow. So I guess what do you have, like about 35 or 40 employees there? So most of them are working remotely in some instances outside of the people that have to be there to receive shipments?
Yeah, so we've got 36 folks total, and we're running about a little over 40% are in the building. Mm-hmm. Not quite 50%. The rest of us are staying away so that if something happens or somebody were to have a positive result, we could swap in and out for those that haven't been exposed. And then we're even within the facility, we're staggering lunch times, keeping everybody 6 feet away as much as possible. And so taking every precaution possible, but it's a skeleton crew that's working really hard to keep the essential activity going and stay executing. So that really, I was talking to my COO this morning about how our best case scenario is if nobody knows that we've been successful, that we just stay under the radar and we continue to execute, and nobody even notices that we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. And just, I would be curious to know what is the tenor or the mindset of your employees when you kind of check their temperature to just see how they're doing personally?
I think they're like everybody else. I think there's a decent amount of anxiety and concern. We try and remind them that, especially from my perspective, faith is important. And I try to give people the balance of leaning into our faith and not the fear, and knowing that ultimately there's a big picture here, that we know who's in charge of all of this, and reassure them that we're there for them. It's like a family in our company, and we're going to pay people and we're going to make sure that people are taken care of. But we've got a job to do, and we remind them of just how important it is for people in a lot of rural places across the country to be able to go to their Walmart and find it open, check out with their groceries, and get the things they need to be healthy and safe and secure at this time.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I love what you guys are doing and how you're handling it. And I mean, a company like yours is, you have a small footprint of workers, but the impact of what you do, given that you serve Walmart, and that's, one of our huge corporate neighbors here in Northwest Arkansas, it really is a significant impact that you guys have. So.
Yeah, that's been, it's been brought home recently, just the last week and a half, of just how important it is what we do. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in the sea of boxes, but it really is vital. And we've tried to reiterate that to our people and encourage them and appreciate them for the job that they do and the risk that they take by coming to work, and try to keep them as safe as we can in the midst of this evolving scenario.
Yeah. Well, hey man, keep up the great work, and certainly I will be thinking about you guys, and certainly will be praying for you guys as you continue to deal with this situation, as we all are. I'm praying for everybody, so my prayers are going all over the place. That's just what I choose to do to be able to let people know that I'm thinking about them. So thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate that. Chris Dinwiddie, we didn't necessarily save the best for last, but I wanted to get some thoughts from you about the real estate market. I mean, you're in it every day, and I know we've been texting back and forth just to kind of see, where things are. And I've noticed a couple of houses go, be put on the market during this coronavirus crisis. And 1 minute the sign is out there, the next minute I see an under agreement sign, and I was kind of amazed. I mentioned that to you the other day because I'm like, man, I didn't know they were doing showings or people were looking at houses. But what are you finding right now on the real estate side of things?
So what I tell my clients is that this may be the first buyer's market in the better part of the last decade, because even though houses are going pending, especially houses that are highly sought after, I had a good litmus test last week on a listing where probably in the first 48 to 72 hours, we would have had 20 showings. I had 2. Both of them put offers in. And so the house is it's moving, but it is only the buyers that are really needing to buy a house. And honestly, the sellers, I'm telling you, if you're not having to list right now, wait a month, wait 2 months, see where we are, just because of the lack of traffic you're going to get on your house and the exposure you're going to get if you do get the traffic that you're going to want. So,
yeah. So it's obviously it's one of those situations where people could definitely stand to hang tight for a while and just kind of see how things shake out.
That's my suggestion. I mean, while we've been on this phone call, president of the Home Builder Association, everybody else has texted, we're going to bump back Parade of Homes more than likely. They're bumping back the home show, all that stuff. And the Parade of Homes wasn't until June. And the plan kind of is, if you've got something coming to market right now, new construction wise, or somebody that has to sell, put it on the market, see if you can't find the buyer that is absolutely moving into town or needing to purchase right now. But if you can wait, just wait. So like all my builder clients are just continuing on within reason of exposure and subs and everything else, but they're continuing on life as normal, just because it takes us months to get something built and something on the market. And everyone believes that even though everything's taken a hit, we haven't seen the value take a hit yet of the actual homes in Northwest Arkansas. And there's a lot of us that don't know if the actual value will take a hit. Now, the sellability might, but if you've got to have something listed for this next month, it's not usually a price that's going to be your situation, your issue. It's going to be that you can't get anybody in to see the house, or nobody's wanting to travel to get out and do it. So,
yeah, that's tough. That is tough. Well, I mean, and are you finding that people are just, are people calling you to even see homes right now?
I actually showed a house Saturday evening.
How are you doing that? Are you just kind of keeping your distance and walking them through, or just saying kind of talk amongst yourselves as you go and look at the house?
So we kept our 6 to 10 feet, relatively speaking. It was, a house on 6 acres and a bigger house, so there was room to move around.
Okay, yeah.
And it honestly, it was a doctor's house, and they had left out bandanas because you can't get masked right now.
Right.
And they left out gloves. So, they said if we had any respiratory symptoms whatsoever, please wear the bandanas. We obviously wore the gloves, and, I've heard stories everywhere from the client, the sellers are opening all the closets, they're turning on all the lights, and they're asking people, look, don't touch anything, period. We'll turn all the lights back off. We'll shut all the doors back. We don't want you doing anything as far as touching anything inside. I've spoken with several brokers and a couple at much bigger firms than mine. And the general consensus has been the traffic calling in to see homes has been, I hate to use like 10% of what it normally would be, but it's been that drastic, that much different. So,
wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, you're going to have to kind of stand firm as terms of what you guys are doing. I think it'll be interesting to see, what this market is. I mean, the spring market here in Northwest Arkansas is usually traditionally a big market. You have people moving in, people coming in, vendors that come in and start working at Walmart or some of these other firms, and people need to buy a house, or people coming in to be at the U of A. Everything seems to kind of have been put on hold. And it seems like that's kind of what you're sharing as well.
For sure. I mean, we had a big rental that we had lined up with college students. They were going to law school and whatnot. And before they left town, the first thing they texted was said, please don't give away our rental. We're planning on coming back this summer.
Yeah.
Planning on all this going away, and so that's just the consensus is kind of like what you hinted at earlier, hunker down for a month, treat it serious. And if you can do that, it's going to go away within a reasonable amount of time, or at least flatten the curve. So,
yeah. And I think that what I was alluding to in the example that this individual is getting, because I don't want to give people false hopes, that hunkering down for a month, that's like if everybody hunkered down for a month collectively. Yes. And we have people that aren't, because I was at Starbucks this morning and there were people out. Although I was in my car, people were out. So, you have that to deal with. So I do get it. But I do see people being a lot more careful. Everybody's paying for stuff with their knuckles now at the ATM and all that other stuff. So certainly that is that's just kind of the way that it is right now. So, and I just heard back from Martine Pollard, and she's not going to be able to make it. She was pulled away for a meeting, which is unfortunate, but thankfully, we had State Rep Garner, and she, given her background and experience, she did give us a taste of what we're experiencing here in Arkansas, as well as in Northwest Arkansas, when it comes to the public health issue of the coronavirus. And I just think we need to continue to be vigilant. I didn't necessarily want to make this about the coronavirus itself, but it's more about all the other issues that come with the coronavirus, which is commerce and food and real estate, and how do we keep our businesses afloat? And I don't know that any of us have any one answer that is going to satisfy all of our needs, but I think collectively we're much better and much stronger as a group than we are individually. Would you guys all agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
we're in this together.
We are. We absolutely are. We don't have a choice, I think. So I think I've taken up enough of everyone's time, and you guys have been more than gracious to just kind of share your sentiments about what's going on. Does anybody have any parting thoughts that they'd like to share before we end this virtual town hall meeting?
Hey, Randy, this is Gary. I think that what we've tried to do is we've left our people in that have to come to work. And, I want to remind you that banks don't get the choice to close. So it's not an option. So I have to be open, and that means I got people that are going to be exposed. But we're buying their lunches from all of our customers that are in the business, because that's the right thing to do. And so we're feeding them all every day in their locations, so that they don't have to get out and go around and, try to make it better or worse, whatever. But anyway, I think it's a good time to try to take care of the people that take care of you. And, we're a local community, and sometimes people decide to shop and bank and do lots of things globally. And this is an example of, just trying to be local. So yeah. we need to buy shiitake mushrooms, and we need to try to take care of the people that are here,
That's it.
So
yeah.
we stand ready to do that.
Well, I appreciate that. And certainly coming, like I told you before, I mean, having a local banker and having a relationship with your banker is more than, most people if you don't have a relationship with your banker, you need to start. And whether it's Gary or anybody else, and I just think that it makes a big difference. And we certainly appreciate everything that you're doing in this community, Gary, and everybody else that's here. Does anybody else have any last minute thoughts they'd like to share?
Randy, this is Denise, and
yes.
Gary has kind of segued into to what I was going to say, and that is that everybody needs to have a relationship with your legislator as well, and your city officials and your county officials. We are the liaisons between the community and the state. As adamant as I have been about stopping this virus and flattening the curve, I will be just as adamant about making sure that we come up with ways to make sure that our economy is built back up in the quickest manner possible. So I am absolutely willing to hear everybody and anybody and answer questions as I can through our state representatives in the governor's office, and anything I can do to help, I'm glad to do that. And I know that my Northwest Arkansas colleagues for certain are, and many across the state. The federal government has been very slow, I think, to respond, and I think folks are complaining, and should, for that matter. But our state, I cannot say that. And coming from across the aisle from our governor, we don't agree on everything all the time, but he has done, I think, an excellent job in listening to the folks who know what they're talking about and trying to make the best decisions possible for our state. So as your state legislator, and in representing all the state legislators, please get in touch with them, let them know what your issues are and what you need from the state, and we'll be glad to get those messages passed on and answers for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I will make sure on our show notes that we have people that are listening to this that are part of your district. I'll make sure they have your number and everything so they can reach out and connect with you. But then I'll also put the general information for the state legislature so that you can, no matter where you're listening to this podcast, if you're in the natural state, you can find your representative and reach out to them. They definitely want to hear from you because they work for you. So I think it's really important.
Exactly.
It's really important to do that. And I will say this, just to give a shameless plug to the governor, his daily presser has been must-see TV for me. For those of you that don't know, you can go right to YouTube, follow Asa Hutchinson, Governor Asa Hutchinson, and you can watch his daily press conference live, or you can just go back and watch it on tape, obviously digitally. And then if you need help, the I Am Northwest Arkansas website, we created just a COVID-19 info sheet that has all kinds of resources, all kinds of information about what's happening. And on a daily basis, we're updating it. So there is a link to the latest press release and press conference from Governor Hutchinson. There is information about the COVID-19 coronavirus. There is information each day just highlighting what has happened in this state. Like when we went from 100 and whatever, we went from 112 to 165 people. All that information is being updated. You can just go to iamnorthwestarkansas.com/COVID-19 info. That's COVID ID 19, the number 19, and then the word info, and then you can get all the information that you need, and you can also get that on our website. But yeah, I think that's about it. So last chance, final last words. Anybody else? We've heard from Gary Head. We've heard from Representative Garner. Anybody have any last minute information that you want to share?
This is Mary Beth. If anybody has friends in business and need any guidance or assistance, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. It's all free consulting.
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Thanks, Mary Beth.
Yeah, we really appreciate you and all the work that you and your staff are doing. And again, I'll make sure that all your contact information are on the show notes because everybody here is handling a yeoman's task when it comes to the amount of work. So there are a number of takeaways. Some are going to be bigger than others for those of you that are listening to this particular episode. And if anybody listening to this show likes shiitake mushrooms, we're going to make sure you can get in touch with Don and find out how we can help this farmer out. I think any farmer within earshot of us here in Northwest Arkansas could use our help right now. Beyond just our prayers, we need to be active. We need to go out and do something. And so where and when possible, keeping in mind the social implications of physically being around folks. So just want to encourage you, to do that, and we will connect with you soon. But thank you very much to everybody that was on the podcast today. I really appreciate you. State Representative Denise Garner, Kent Eikenberry from the NWA Food Bank, Don Bennett from Tricycle Farms, Aaron Marshall from BCS, Chris Dinwiddie from the Exclusive Real Estate Group. And then we also had Gary Head from Signature Bank, Rolf Wilkin from Eureka Pizza, Jeremy Gothrop from Woodstone and the Roots Festival, and Mary Beth Brooks, Director of the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Continue to do the great work that you're doing, and we do look forward to connecting with you in the very near future. Folks, that's all I have for right now. That this was a special episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. If there's anything you've heard today that moves you, that causes you to want to reach out to these individuals, I encourage you to do it. We cannot do it by ourselves. We certainly could use your help. And so we hope that this has been helpful for you as we continue to move forward. And I'm going to sign off with this one reminder. This too shall pass. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon. God bless.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Randy.
Okay, take care, guys.
Thanks, Randy. See you.
Okay, see ya. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.